the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
AJ Russell, that was fun on Tuesday night. The ETSU game, even though it resulted in a Tennessee loss, that was a good baseball game, fun back and forth. But yeah, when Tennessee Tech score was only 7-1, but when you're double-digit runs up on somebody and the run rule is happening, it can be a bit much.
Bit McKee, you have one word to define the 2024-2025 Tennessee men's basketball season. What's your word you use?
I can't go Charles Barkley and give you like 3 words when you ask for one.
You can do one, and then you can do 3 after.
Oh, my one word. Oh, man. Successful is the first word that comes to mind, but that's not emphatic enough as I want it to be. I think it was successful. I think historical. Legendary seems a little bit much because they didn't make the Final Four, but I'd say it's somewhere in between simply being historical and legendary, if that makes sense, because Zakai Ziegler cemented himself as the best point guard in Tennessee basketball history in my mind. His number 5 should be up there in the rafters with Chris Lofton. I think Chris Lofton and Zakai should be right next to each other. I don't really care if Zakai meets all of the rules or whatnot. And I am a proponent of like having strict rules when it comes to jersey retirements. But I think there's a bit of – there's one of the big reasons I think Zakai should go up there is something that rules can't attest for. And that's the overall impact that he has had in elevating Tennessee basketball and taking it to that next tier. I'm not going to go as far as Kate Phillips did and say it's a blue blood now, but I think Tennessee basketball is in that tier right behind the Blue Bloods. I think it's always been a top 25, top 30 to top 40 program at minimum. I think Zakai and Jemai and the other players in the Rick Barnes era, but especially Zakai, I think has really helped elevate the program to where it's a top 15, top 10 program, somewhere in there, which I think is a heck of an accomplishment for a program at a football school. And I think that is something that, yes, you should have strict rules when it comes to a jersey retirement, but that's something that those strict rules can't account for. And me being a Memphis Grizzlies fan, I have been poked and prodded and joked on for retiring Tony Allen and Zach Randolph and Mike Conley and Mark Gasol, the core 4. But for any Grizzlies fans out there, like they understand why the jersey is going up in the rafters. It's because of the impact they had on the city, the community, the franchise that wins and losses can't account for. They helped take that franchise to the next level. They made people care about it, and people already cared about Tennessee basketball. There's always been a great following. I just think that this group spearheaded by Zakai took it to the next level, and that's on top of the multiple records he now holds, a 4-year player, fan favorite. I think there's so much that makes sense. So that's kind of why a long-winded way of saying I think it's somewhere in between historical and legendary, because you have instances like that. You have the team going to the Elite Eight for the second consecutive season. I think the win over Kentucky is the biggest win in program history, because you've never won an Elite Eight game. So it's got to be one of the Sweet 16 games. That was the first ever matchup with Kentucky in the postseason. Your biggest rival, I think the most underrated rivalry in college basketball, and you won it, and you beat them down pretty good with a bunch of their fans in attendance. So I think the program did a lot of tremendous things, a lot of program firsts this year, both from a single season perspective, but also a historical perspective with some of the individual accolades. Chaz Lanier, I think he's got a great chance of winning the Jerry West Award as the best shooting guard in college basketball. Jemai's shot against Alabama. There's a lot of things we could spend hours on discussing, like Tennessee first this year. And I think for those reasons, that's why, again, I'm not going to call it legendary, because I think you got to save that for when they finally make the Final Four. But it was historical for a lot of reasons.
I'm still holding out hope for Nick Calathis and Costa Koufos to get their numbers hanging in the rafters.
Only if we do John Lure first.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Miles Swift.
I wouldn't be opposed. That was a little bit before my time. I was a youngin then, but I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Maybe a little Jason Williams, Allen Iverson action in there, all like the week that Allen Iverson was a Grizzly.
I mean, there are a lot of options here at Ben McKee. I would also say, like, I wonder if you agree. I think my word would be perspective, because I think Tennessee got every ounce, or Rick Barnes and this staff got every ounce out of what they had. And losing to a 1 seed in back-to-back years, nothing to scoff at. They weren't upset. They got to the second weekend in back-to-back years, Elite Eight, back-to-back Elite Eight appearances, Sweet 16, 3 years in a row. This was a perspective year for me, because I think last year you were one of the 3 best teams in college basketball with the best player in college basketball. And that one hurt, because if you just get some region luck, and like if you just avoid Purdue or UConn until the Final Four, like we look at this program very differently, because like Dalton was good enough to take this team to a Final Four national championship type situation. I'm not saying they would have won a national title if they avoided Purdue and UConn in the region, but they were a victim of like chalk the past 2 years, where it's just like they just needed one of these 2 years for one of the 1 seeds to go down before they got there. And it didn't happen. And there's no, like, Houston was just a better version of Tennessee this year. There's no, we're in a historical 4-1 seed situation. It's fine. Like, Tennessee was somewhere between the 5th and 8th best team in the country, I think, this year, somewhere in that range. And that's great. Like, it's a great, like you said, they're a top 10, top 15 program right now in men's college basketball. And I think the difference in what I felt, the conclusion of this year versus last year, was this year I was like, man, there's like they went far. They beat Kentucky when it mattered most. They get to another Elite Eight. They dealt with a really rough hand in terms of scholarships and Cam leaving the program, JP not being available, like super thin throughout the year. And to maximize what they had, I thought was just huge, and a testament to how good of a staff and how good of a job that Rick and his staff did this year. But last year felt more like a gut punch, where like last year you're talking yourself into the Purdue win, where you're like, well, Connect could go for 48, and that could like we can figure out a way, and maybe Awaka can handle Edey, and we throw JP in there, and we'll rotate bigs to see what we can do, and maybe he doesn't get all the foul calls, and we can find a way to make it happen, because Dalton Connect was just a generational type guy, and you just were like, I don't want to waste this, and it was a different type of deal. And this year, I don't know if you felt the same, but I never felt like this team was going to win a national championship this year. I did think that they could make an Elite Eight and they could be a Final Four team. But you look at, I mean, even if they win that game against Houston, there's no answer for Cooper Flagg in the Final Four. Like I don't think that would have gone well for Tennessee, but it felt different. Like last year felt like a gut punch where I'm like, man, Tennessee really could have won a national championship last year, depending on how things broke. I don't think that was the case this year, but I think it's a testament to Barnes to be able to reload like this and to get to back-to-back Elite Eights with this team.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you said. And Tennessee, I feel like, was a Tier 2 team. I think there's a clear Tier 1. It's the Final Four teams. And Tennessee, I think the best way to describe it is Tennessee's capable of beating any team in the country any day, anywhere, anytime. Like I do think obviously Houston's the better team. They showed that. But if you play 5 games, Tennessee's finding a way to win one of them.
Yeah.
It's not like they'd go 0-5, and I would pick Duke to beat Tennessee, but Tennessee's capable of beating Duke, just like we saw Tennessee beat Florida and beat Auburn. So, yes, there was a big difference in the game on Sunday, and fans should be frustrated about losing by 19 points. Like, that's not acceptable. Losing to Houston, you understand. Losing by 19 points shouldn't be the end result, but that's semantics at this point in my mind. A loss is a loss, and you did run into the number 1 seed. But at the end of the day, you were capable of beating anybody in the country, which means that you were one of the best teams in the country. And unfortunately, 2 straight years of the tournament luck not being on your side, because if you have a 1 seed go down before you have to play them, then you're probably going to back-to-back Final Fours instead of back-to-back Elite Eights. And so there's a little bad luck involved, and that seems to be the consensus of Rick Barnes in the tournament at Tennessee, with running into FAU and Loyola Chicago and their Final Four runs. But there's still a difference in losing to those teams and losing to Purdue, losing to Houston. And that's why I think you've seen such a limited amount of backlash. And really, I haven't really even seen any backlash. Maybe I just did a good job of avoiding it. I did drive back to Knoxville after the game, so I wasn't on social media, but I feel like the rational fans have a proper perspective of, man, that was a really fun group to root for on a lot of different levels. It was a really fun regular season. SEC tournament was fun. NCAA tournament was fun. You can have a great appreciation for all of that while also being frustrated a little bit and upset that you still haven't gotten to the Final Four, that you played one of your worst halves of basketball at the most important time. Like you can juggle both of those emotions and appreciate the regular season while also wanting more. I think that's been a big topic of conversation in the last couple of years as fans have criticized Rick Barnes for being regular season Rick or whatnot. Like you can do both. You can be appreciative for what you have while also wondering, okay, like this is fun, but what needs to happen in the portal to take that next step, to get over the hump and get to the Final Four? And I do agree with what you said. I never felt like Tennessee was going to win the national championship, but I thought they were a Final Four contender, and they were right at the door and ran into a better basketball team and played its worst half of the season right there with that first half in Gainesville at the worst time. So I think you should be able to find some peace and joy in the fact that Tennessee was able to get as far as they did. And at the end of the day, the program has only ever been to 3 Elite Eights, and you've done it. 2 of them are in back-to-back seasons. So I think there's been a lot of proper perspective and appreciation this last week or so as Tennessee was able to make that run, which would have been a totally different conversation if you had not handled business against Kentucky the way that they did.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.